Hi, Mike Brandley, auctioneer. Discussing today whether auctioneers could conceivably not accept a higher bid. For example, I was selling a house here in Columbus, Ohio, and I had a bid. It was a pretty dilapidated, needing repair, a lot of deferred maintenance, little 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, and I had a bid of $10,000. Exceeding the probate court appraisal, incidentally. And I asked 12.5. And a bidder said, I'll give you 11. And I said, no, I want 12.5. He said, you have to take my $11,000 bid because that's more than the $10,000 bid that you have at the moment. Now, my question is, did I have to take that $11,000 bid? Maybe another question might be, did I take that $11,000 bid, or can I refuse it? And can I keep saying I'm not going to take anything less than 12.5 over the $10,000 bid that I have at the moment? Well, I didn't take that $11,000. I said, I need 12.5. He said, I'll give you 11. I said, no, I'm not going to take it. Sold for 10. He said, hey, you can't do that. You didn't sell it to the highest bidder. Well, let's start with this. There are two types of auctions: with reserve auctions and without reserve auctions. In a with reserve auction, an auctioneer can reserve the right to control the increments. So this was a with reserve auction in my example. And so I had told the attorney, I had discussed with the court that we were going to take $1,000 bids up to $10,000 and then $2,500 increments thereafter. So when we got to 10, it was going to be 12.5. The attorney said that's fine. Court said that's fine. And that's exactly what we prescribed when we were conducting the auction. Got to 10,000, from 9,000 to 10,000, asking 12.5. He offered 11, and I said, I'm not going to take it. I didn't have to take it. It's a with reserve auction. But don't miss the important step here. I discussed with my client. See, if I hadn't talked to the court, hadn't talked to the attorneys, and I'm standing in that house with a $10,000 bid, and I ask 12.5, and I don't take 11, and I say sold for 10, the attorney says, well, why didn't you take the 11? I mean, what are you doing? 11's more than 10. It'll only take a few seconds to take 11. We might have got 12 or 13 or 14 had you kept going, but you decline a $1,000 increase over $10,000. I had discussed it with them. A bid that's just a trifling advance over the current bid. You know, if I've got $10,000, he offers $10,000.05. You know, is the attorney going to say, well, we're not going to fool around with that? Going to be all day taking 5-cent bids? Probably not. You know, do you decline that? You probably do. In a with reserve auction, incidentally, with reserve, reserving to control the increments. So that might not be something you have to discuss with your client, but if you're turning down $1,000 increments at $10,000, your client should have informed consent to those increments. Now, let's talk about absolute auctions, without reserve auctions. Had that auction I was discussing with you been an absolute auction or a without reserve auction, and I had 10,000 and he offered 11, I would have had to take it, because in an absolute auction, a without reserve auction, you must sell to the highest bidder. There is case law supporting this contention that without reserve, absolute, suggests that you have to sell to the highest bidder. With reserve, you could have controlled or sequenced or minimum increments at different places by default. So, absolute auction, you're selling to the high bidder. Interestingly enough, auctioneers can advertise in the United States under current case law that there's having an auction selling to the highest bidder, which doesn't necessarily mean it's an absolute auction. But on the other hand, if you're having an absolute auction or without reserve auction, you must sell to the highest bidder. So, in summary, can the auctioneer decline a higher bid? Or maybe a better question, should an auctioneer decline a higher bid? Well, on one item at $10,000, would I have taken $10,500 or $10,250? Maybe. How much more time would we have spent going in $250 increments or $500 increments at that stage? I could have. But the attorney in the court kind of suggested, you get to 10, ask 12.5, you can't get it, let's just move on. We had other property to sell that day. So I guess it probably depends on time and how many items you have to sell. If I had 100 houses to sell and on the 15th house, I'm setting at 10,000, 10,001, 10,002, 10,003, 10,004. I've got to see the forest for the trees here. I might get 4 or 5 or 6 or 700 more dollars for this house, but I'm lengthening the auction event of those 100 homes, and maybe people leave or don't stick around or lose interest or what have you. So I've got to sell in an expedited fashion in order to keep the crowd and maximize the proceeds in an overall fashion, than worrying about maximizing on each item. I might maximize the price on that house to the detriment of the auction total at the end. So careful considerations for auctioneers: determining increments, setting increments, requiring certain increments, and knowing whether you can or can't, and whether you're having a with reserve auction where you can control the increments, whether you're having an absolute auction where you largely cannot. Mike Bramley, Auctioneer. Pleasure to be with you today. Other videos on this same page, others forthcoming. Have a great day and stay safe.